Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, Keith, how you doing?
Hi, Ludo. I'm well. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for being on the show today. So this is Keith Yazdanseta, and geez, we just rehearsed that one. Uh, uh, with us today, Keith has been a student of ours and graduated a few months ago from the backend with SQL, Python, DevOps, three clouds, and everything you can think of when you think about backend. And we're going to talk about your journey, Keith, how you got to development, how you got your first job, what led you there. This is Campfire number 31. If you've watched the show before, you probably know already that we are streaming live almost every Friday. Although I'm gonna go on the break during the month of August. I'm actually taking a few weeks with the family, going back to France. So we're gonna pause for a few weeks during the month of August. But if you are familiar with the show, you can ask your questions on the chat, either on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or on YouTube. Ask your questions here. Keith and I will see them and we'll actually answer your questions. You can also do something quite fun, I think, which is actually joining myself and Keith using your camera and your microphone on. And if you follow this link, url.nucamp.co/dialin, you're going to be with us by the pool with Keith or in the basement with me, asking questions and yeah, direct access to both of us so that you can really have all your questions answered. So that being all said, Keith, do you mind letting us know where you're joining us from right now and maybe a little bit about yourself, like yeah, where are you from and things like that?
Sure. Well, Ludo, thank you for taking the time to give me the opportunity to be on Campfire. Thank you very much. Originally, I'm from New York, East Coast. I moved to California for the warmer weather. Initially, I came out here for grad school, and I just stayed out here. So I've been in California actually about 8 years now.
Oh, nice. Okay. And so, and you were telling me you don't really regret the freezing cold of New York. Do you regret anything about the East Coast?
I do. I regret the pizza. The pizza is great over there. The
Oh,
Italian food is
yeah.
great. The East Coast has this like essentially a certain charm to it as well.
Yeah.
So I do miss that as well. But no, I do not miss the cold, or nor do I miss the humidity. I do miss the rain though. I do miss the rain. We do need
Oh,
that
you
down
like
here.
the rain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I moved to the US, we landed for 3 years in Boston. The main reason was it was the most European city in the
Sure.
US. And New York has that vibe, I mean, the people of New York are really definitely not the same than the people of California in terms of mood and how they engage with
Uh,
one another, and it's very European for the
yeah.
best and the
Exactly.
worst, I'll say.
Exactly. It's completely different. I remember, just as a small example, flying back. I would fly back from New York to California a lot for different events, essentially, and
Yeah.
landing in Orange County John Wayne Airport, you just feel like the pressure and the stress just come right off your shoulders,
Oh
just
yeah.
from coming from New York. So
Oh,
it's
that's
it's
cool. Yeah,
different.
great feeling. All right, so we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about your journey because it's quite spectacular, and especially seeing everything you've done before the bootcamp. I mean, that's really quite impressive. Looking at your LinkedIn profile, we're going to talk then about you getting into tech and how you found your first job. I also want to chat. Oh, and I want to talk about the early bird coming up for the Python bootcamp. So if you are looking into registering to the backend with SQL and Python, which is the bootcamp you did, Keith, you should know that by Monday night, the rate will go up for the bootcamp that starts in August. So we'll talk about that. And we have Krista here. Hey, Krista, that says no one goes to France in the summer. Actually, the French people leave France in the summer and then the tourists arrive. That's how it works.
You're going as a
I'm not
tourist.
doing it the other way around. So yeah, we have to come go visit the family and really really enjoy it. So Keith, I want to ask you, I guess, about your passions because when I look at your LinkedIn profile,
Mhm.
I see a ton of passion in the jobs that you did before. I mean, and I would like to have some of those jobs myself. Do you mind actually walking us through Well, I
Sure.
know you're into sports, right? So do you mind looking us walking? I mean, yeah, walking us through your how you got started in in your professional career, what kind of jobs you did. I mean, yeah, tell us about that. I think a lot of people really enjoy hearing about those various experiences that you've had.
Of course. So I would say my journey, I guess, has been not your standard development journey, but I would agree. I would say that a lot of people don't have all the same journey. I initially started in sales. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was younger. I started working. I was probably 15 or 16 years old, and I actually started no as a pool lifeguard. Then I transitioned into sales.
There you
Eventually,
go.
I was in the mortgage industry. I did door to door sales.
Wow.
I did telecom sales as well too. I eventually did also I did audio video installation for probably 4 years when I was in my late teens, early 20s throughout college to kind of help pay for college and support myself.
Yeah.
And then I did software security sales. So it was kind of a mixed batch, but primarily sales. And in 2000, I want to say end of 2013 and beginning of 2014, I decided to. I had already graduated undergrad. My degree was in political science. I decided I love sports, particularly one sport. I love boxing. So you ask what my passions are; they still are today, boxing and I love wildlife. I love animals. Those are primarily my passions. So I decided to move out to California. My excuse to move out to California was my master's in sport management. So I came out to California in 2014. I graduated from my program in 2016, and then I went back into sports.
So you've had actually a very strong education, I'll say, throughout those jobs, and you were kind of working and studying at the same time, kind of sustaining yourself. Um, I need to ask about the boxing, and actually, I want to ask about MMA.
Sure.
I'm an MMA fan.
Oh, okay.
Uh, can you tell me about the job you had in that field? And let's talk about it a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I would say when I was, I mean, I would still say I'm a go-getter. When I was younger, I was kind of very much into, even more so into boxing as well. And I
Yeah.
was in my 20s, I was all over the place. So I was doing one thing or another. I initially interned with the local boxing promoter on Long Island or in New York, Star Boxing. So it was a lot of fun. I got my hands on in the promotional event and operations aspect of it. And I got to manage tickets, promote the event, work directly with the owner of the company. When I moved out to California, I started working with Bellator MMA. I actually managed their social media too. And then I worked with Bellator MMA. And that was a lot of fun. The owner of the company is really cool, Scott Coker, a great guy.
Yeah.
And my friend and I was in grad school at this point. We promoted one of the Bellator events in San Diego. I was living in San Diego too, and it was actually we helped promote the event. It was the biggest MMA event of 2014 at the time.
Oh,
I like to
cool.
put that feather in my cap
Yeah.
as well too. I mean, I just helped promote the event on a local level, but it's essentially fun to say. But we did things such as ticket sales, obviously event management, operations. We got to work with the fighters during sponsorship activation events. We got to work directly with the CEO and also the VPs of the company as well too, in regards to organizing the event, making sure equipment was in the right place, just different odd jobs to kind of help the promotion.
That's pretty cool. And there's a question from Seth asking for the dial-in link. So if you want to dial in and have a chat with Keith and I, follow this one, url.nucamp.co/dial-in. I have a few questions for you. I mean, just for the fun of it. Are you still following MMA?
I do. I follow the UFC primarily, not as much. Boxing's my passion, so I follow
Yeah.
boxing more. I
I
did
don't know boxing
catch
that
the
much.
highlights of the Adesanya
So
fight. I'm sorry.
who do you think is the most exciting boxer right now?
Most exciting boxer right now. A few weeks ago, there was a Russian fighter, Canadian. He's a Canadian citizenship, Artur Beterbiev. He actually fought and knocked out a local fighter from New York in 2 rounds. He's very exciting. You have Gennady Golovkin. He's fighting in a few weeks. He's fighting Saul Canelo Alvarez. That's going to be an exciting fight as long as it lasts for. Tyson Fury is pretty exciting. He's not everyone's
Tyson
taste.
Fury. I know the name. I haven't watched a fight, but
He's a
I mean,
character.
he's been indestructible, right?
He's
Everybody's like,
undefeated. Yeah, no one's stopped. No one's beat him.
this is amazing. This is
Yeah,
insane, actually.
yeah. So
And
there's
how
a
about in the MMA space? Who do you think is the most exciting fighter?
Right now, most exciting fighter. That's a very good question. I would say
Yeah,
probably.
Who has an opinion here?
Yeah, he's a great fighter. I mean, and I
When he
like his
fights.
personality too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's. I don't know that we're gonna see him on the ring very soon, though. That's the problem. But
He
yeah,
might he might fight John Jones soon. I don't know who he's fighting next though, but
oh, that'd be
he's
awesome.
a very exciting fighter. I like Adesanya. I know he's polarizing.
Yeah,
I like his style because he's more of a striking stand up style. I
yeah,
think he's very talented. Who else do I like? I've always liked Frankie Edgar. Unfortunately, he's old in the tooth
yeah.
right now, but he's always been my favorite fighter. He's just tough and he's a great fighter. Exciting. Who else is there? Nate Diaz is exciting.
Yeah,
Everyone likes
well,
him.
the Diaz brother. So hey, that was just for me.
Sure.
I don't get to actually have conversations around MMA very often. So
Well, we
thank
can
you
always chat
for
about that offline. So.
yeah. There you go. So yeah, I mean, you've done so many things before actually deciding to shift gears and get into the tech industry. Now, let me ask you this. I mean, you had a really exciting career before that. Why the change? Like, why did you think that you wanted to really do that turn and get into tech?
That's a great question. So, a couple different reasons. I remember 2017. I was in a flag football league. I played flag football every once in a while, and I'm talking to some of my teammates or some of the people I play with, and they're in tech in some manner
Mm,
or the form, whether it's IT management, they're programmers, some in some capacity. And these people had English majors. They had basically essentially educational backgrounds or no educational background that had anything to do with tech. So that kind of planted a seed in my mind because I've always been in sales and marketing to some extent. And to be honest with you, I was kind of in denial. I didn't really like it. I didn't really like sales as
yeah.
much, unless it's something I'm really passionate about, which is, hard to, it's not always, you don't always come by that. So I thought about it. I put it on the back burner. I got into finance. I like finance. I like helping people and educating people. But I kind of grew frustrated with my situation. So I was actually having a conversation about a year ago with one of my best friends, just expressing my frustration about my situation. I wanted to make a change, and he says, Why don't you try development?" He's a developer himself,
Yeah.
and okay, I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Initially, I was at a fork. I was either looking to go into the mortgage industry because I did like real estate at the time, or I still do, and tech. So I decided to go into tech. First, I tried a cybersecurity course on Udemy, completed it, tried it, wasn't my thing, didn't like it.
Oh, hold on,
Told
hold on, hold on, hold on. You actually completed a Udemy course.
yes.
That's
Is
unheard
that a
of.
shocker?
Did you get the cybersecurity certification or something like that as well? Or was it tied to a certification or just the course?
Just a course. I mean, I got a Udemy certification. That's it.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
didn't get
cool.
my whatever. I forgot what it's
So
called.
so you
Something.
you really started to think about it in 2017
Hmm.
and we're kind of, deciding what to do next, but you really didn't get serious until like 2 years later, like 2019 you said, or 2020?
Not last year.
Last
About a
year.
year ago. So a year ago, July 24th, end of July,
Yeah.
I decided, hey, I want to change myself. I want to improve myself, and not just to get into tech, but I want to, improve my life in general. I want to improve my mindset. I
Yeah.
essentially want to just elevate and go to the next level. So
Mhm.
I cut myself off from my friends and my family, limited communication for 6 months, and I didn't really do anything social. I just studied and I just worked on myself. I read, I did a lot of self development, and in that
Wow.
time, after deciding to pursue tech, I then started self studying, primarily coding, primarily Python, and I started a Udemy
Gotcha.
course in Python, and then I jumped into Nucamp.
And
We all
raise
start
them
with
of flags, but
Udemy.
yeah, everybody starts with Udemy. Nobody stops with it, which is cool. That's
Nobody
why we
stops.
exist.
Yeah.
So you did learn Python on your own first. And so how long did you learn Python on your own, like on Udemy or anything else? Do you remember that? And why
Yes.
Python at the time? Do you recall?
It was just like my friend. She suggested that it's an easier language to
Yeah.
start studying, and I realized that afterwards, trying to learn JavaScript or Java as well too, which I think is even more confusing. But
Yes, it can be. Yeah.
it was easier. It was a lot more forgiving per se, as opposed to other OOP languages. So that's why I started, and I liked it too, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Cool. So So what made you then decide to join a coding bootcamp? And when did you make like that decision?
I was someone had going through careerkarma.com. I think I was pointing in the direction.
Oh yeah.
Okay, they kind of put you in that direction where you
Mhm.
per se, okay, you self study, then you go into coding boot camp. That's a track that you do.
Yeah.
And I was always a little bit hesitant as well too, because I was just constantly doing my research, looking at reviews, and I did a lot of networking at first too, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit later. And I just talk with people in Nucamp. I talk with people in different various boot camps just to kind of gauge their experience and their perceived value with the boot camp. So I did that, and then in September, I think, yeah, September 13th was my first day. The reason I did it was because, okay, I'm serious about changing my career. I need to take this, essentially takes this sort of action to do this. And to kind of go back to one of the reasons why I decided to go into coding is I just got tired of selling things. I want to be on the back end per se and develop and create products as opposed to selling products.
So are you actually thinking about building your own product, your own tech product right now, or is that still kind of far in the future for you?
I started with I didn't build the website. It was a Wix website. I started the Wix website, and I'm thinking about, yeah, I had in my mind, and as I get more experience, I want to build an app, a
Oh,
platform
that's
too,
cool.
in
Yeah.
particular, a boxing.
So you actually were probably one of the very first student of the backend Python and SQL bootcamp. And so uh, you you said something quite impressive. You kind of really decided to dedicate your life towards learning and achieving that goal. Did you then do that? Did that follow you throughout the bootcamp? Like, were you kind of isolating yourself? There's a question here that says, "Hey, how did you actually get the time to do it?" Can you describe to us, I guess, the sacrifices
I
that
had the
you
time to
made?
do yeah. Yeah, people
Can
ask me
you,
that. Uh, um, so
like,
how
what
did I
were you doing something else at the same time? What kind of sacrifices did you make during the time to really achieve that learning goal that you had and be ready for the next step?
Sure, that's a great question. So I'll be completely transparent with everyone. I've been self-employed for a long time, so I've been able to control my hours. I but I had to obviously pay for that indirectly because I wasn't working as much. So I would say I dedicated about 2 to 6 hours every day to study. I know it's not
Nice.
glamorous, but that's what I did. I average about 2 hours every day to study. I recall eh, I'm not the best student in high school. I hated school. I did not like studying at all. My mother, and she just always said, "You don't like studying, you blah 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 blah." I had to go home. I had not home. I had to go to New Jersey. My mom lives in New Jersey now to take care of her. She had an accident. Fortunately, she's good now. Knock on wood. And she's like, "I've never seen you study so much in your life." I was studying for
Wow.
4 to 6 hours every day while I was there. So I was able to manipulate my schedule. If I was working, I would work. I would study at night, or I basically was studying when I was working. I probably double more. My tech skills, my coding skills, my program skills were probably subpar compared to everyone else in my bootcamp. I probably was the quote unquote weakest link, but I became obsessed with it. I have a good work ethic, and I just continue to keep pushing and studying every day and network.
So yeah, and, what you're describing here kind of reminds me of my son. Actually, I'll tell you. So right now, one of my two sons doesn't see right now the value of education necessarily, right? And you can tell he's not motivated in learning, although he has tons of capacity. And I think there is a moment in your life, in time, where all of a sudden you really connect the dots between having a strong education on knowledge and being happy in your job and having everything you need to actually live the good life. And so that moment can happen anytime, right? And so for you kind of, it hits you, right? Like, hey, this is the path for me to get the life that I want and the position that I want. And what you're describing as well is you are kind of full time almost. I mean, given the flexible hours. And I even though our
Yeah, I work 40
programs
hours
are
a week at least.
yeah,
So
yeah, and even though I mean, our programs are kind of part time, and we don't expect students to be full time. The people who do actually and can do that, I see can really get to the next level where they have even more time to learn and internalize the knowledge. There's a question here. I think, and I've seen others before, but I think this one may actually speak to you as well. And maybe we can have a conversation with the iFresh 1988.
Okay.
What
So
would you say? Yeah, what would you tell iFresh 1988?
so so we have a being in sales, we have built a skill set that kind of differentiates us from a lot of people. This might sound stereotypical, but I want to say a lot. Your stereotypical engineer or a person or individual in tech, they might be a little bit more. They might not have be equipped with the social networking skills. Like, and that could be completely wrong. I don't know. That's at least my
No, you're
experience.
probably right. Yeah, I mean, it's a common trait, of being introvert and having a hard time engaging with others. So yeah, go ahead.
So in sales is it's a lot of essentially grinding and hustle and bustle per se. So the advantage that you have, iFresh is nice, nice handle by the way, is that you have the skill of networking. So just network, continue to study, continue to network. And for me, I thought the same thing too. I applied to about 350 jobs before I got my job. I was applying to 100 jobs every month. I was constantly networking with recruiters. I started to dislike recruiters, to be completely honest with you, because I got ghosted. I was basically kind of tossed to the side. I work with companies that were what's the word, consulting companies that they're foreign. Nothing wrong with that, but at the same time too, they were saying that they're here in America, or were they really in another country, and they would just essentially ghost me. So it's just a lot of networking, a lot of studying, and finding that low hanging fruit. And the saying is, opportunity is when luck meets preparation, or something to that order. I messed it up, but that's really all it comes down to. Continue to study, continue to network, and utilize. What I did too is I have friends and family who are developers as well too. People are very, especially what I love about the development community, they're very willing to help you. I tell people, oh, I'm essentially trained to become a developer. They're like, that's great. What can I do to help you? That's the feedback. That's the energy that I received. And they did help me. My cousin has helped me. My best friend has helped me numerous times. And my friends have helped me too as well. They give me, whether it's just give me advice or doing a coding interview with me, and telling me you're doing X, Y, and Z right, but you need to do this.
Also, you did mock-up interviews with them.
100%. Yeah, I did several mock-up interviews and I failed them all.
Well, you only need to succeed at one,
Exactly.
Hey, we have Seth who's gonna join us at some point. Thanks. Just hold on a second. We're gonna continue on that conversation with iFresh, and because I want to connect it back to what you said earlier, like you don't consider yourself being the most successful student or the best developer, right?
Not at all.
And we're seeing my wife going,
oh, no problem
behind me, but that's okay. Can you tell us a little bit about how do you kind of compensate on maybe not being the best coder, but really having those additional social skills in terms of communicating, engaging with others? How did it translate to you in a conversation, in a networking event? How did that happen?
So a couple of different methodologies. I would just reach out to multiple recruiters, stay in contact with them. I would have Zoom meetings with them just to kind of talk about my path, where I'm at, what I'm looking for. These are my certifications. This is what I've just done. I'd share my portfolio, and obviously interview as well too. I did apply to a lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of jobs. Got rejected by majority of them. Did go through a couple of. It's important to, I see Charles, it's important to go through technical interviews and get that experience. Even if you fail, you have to get your feet wet, because it is nerve wracking, especially for someone new to tech. But you just have to show that you are ready and willing to basically go above and beyond. Because if you do feel like, if you're not doing as well on your practice problems, or you feel like your coding skills, first you don't really tell yourself that. Say, you constantly tell yourself that you're improving, that they're improving. Don't say that they're bad. Speak positivity into your mind, because really all it comes down to is eventually you'll get it. And I eventually got the logic too. It's just a matter of getting the logic and kind of reprogramming your mind. So keep practicing, keep networking, and apply to as many jobs as you can. Go to career fairs, and connect with hiring managers as well too, because they might not have anything right now, but they will in the future. And for me too, I applied to my company initially, they rejected me. but I built a relationship with the recruiter. She happened to be from New York, like myself.
Oh.
And
Hey,
she's
hold
like,
on
okay,
to that actually, because I
sure,
want to spend more time on that particular experience and how you got that very first job. So hold on to that. Thank you for the question, Charles. We
sure.
have Seth here. Seth, I'm going to bring you onto the floor. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Very good, very good. Thanks for taking the time and joining us live. What do you have questions for us?
Yeah, so I actually am finishing the web development bootcamp tomorrow with Nucamp. I was
The 4 weeks
wondering,
one?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, congrats.
I have no
Congratulations.
coding experience whatsoever, so I felt like getting a good solid move into HTML, CSS, and Java might be a good precursor for things like that. But my question for you, Keith, was what made you go with backend, not maybe full end or like a full stack?
Sure. And I initially questioned myself that too as well. The reason I went to backend was just because it was suggested that Python is a little bit more forgiving and easier to learn as opposed to like a JavaScript. I forgot to mention too, I did have a little bit of experience with HTML, but I didn't remember it at the time. Another thing I wanted to ask too was on your resume, just fluff it up and not lie, but curtail your resume to every particular job you're applying to. And if you have any tech experience, insert it, or kind of curtail and adjust the wording to make it seem like one, you're servicing clients, you're working on solutions. That helps a lot as well too. But to go back to your question, backend, just because Python seemed like a more forgivable, easier language to learn. That's why.
And maybe to build on top of that, Keith, did you regret the decision afterwards? Do you feel like maybe you should have taken full stack or front end, or are you just plenty happy with learning that Python?
No, I believe in life, everything happens for a reason. And Python gave me that course gave me the ability to utilize SQL. And that's what basically got my job.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What do you think you're going to do next, Seth, then? Do you know?
Well, that's what I've been trying to decide. So I've been looking at the numbers, and I would like to think that, you've got your back end, you've got your front end, you've got full stack. Full stack kind of brings in the best of both. But when you look at how much each costs, doing the full stack is actually going to be a cheaper option in the end run. If you decide that you don't like back end, let's say you're halfway into it, you don't like it. I was thinking if it's like a $300-400 difference, it might be worth it to have more possibility and more openings when you start applying and things like that. My next question is, I've seen a lot of job openings. Some are asking for certain coding languages that aren't very popular and not taught in some of the Nucamp coding boot camps. Did you self-study when you were applying for jobs or things like that? Or were you just like transparent and say, hey, I don't know these coding languages? And was that like a disqualifier for some of these jobs that you're applying to?
Sure. So I was still self-studying. I was doing mock interviews with friends, family. I was also doing technical interviews. So some companies, I remember I applied for a few. Another piece of advice I would give for everyone too as well, go for low-hanging fruit. So I went for a lot of apprenticeships, a lot of internships as well too. Even though at this point in my career, I don't qualify for an internship. I haven't been in college for a long time, but I was going for all the low-hanging fruit. And doing tech interviews, whether they were live or online. I was still getting experience and studying while I could before I got my job and still applying to jobs. I did apply to one job. It was another apprenticeship. I don't know if it was with Amazon or another company. It was Java, and I tried it. Obviously, didn't get it. I had another coding interview as well too. I passed the first round. And I let them know, hey, I don't have any experience with JavaScript. They're like, oh, go ahead and do it anyway. So I did it. Obviously, it didn't go well. I didn't pass, but that's fine. It was still a learning experience. So what I would suggest is continue to get as much experience interviewing and continue to study. And it's cumulative. Work on your project. Working on projects is great. And if there's something you're very passionate about, it expedites your learning learning curve as well too. I love boxing. I have a basic API on a boxing app. So that helped me help time go about faster. So those things will definitely benefit your overall growth.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And Seth, I would maybe add that if you're exposed to kind of exotic languages, you probably want to do a short list of the things that you will probably want to self-learn. And there's an easy actually list. If you look at the top 5 languages, you're going to see, JavaScript, Python, Java. And when you hit JavaScript, that opens the door to any type of framework around that. You got Next, React, Angular, Vue. And so it's really all JavaScript. And then you're going to see, PHP, still very popular. Maybe it's worth, looking at it a little bit. Ruby on Rails, still taught, still popular somehow, but definitely legacy language. And then after that, I would really be careful to spend any time on any other type of language, right? Because those are going to be very, very narrow in terms of what you can expect. Yeah.
I do see C++ as one that's pretty popular in a lot of postings.
C++, yeah, C++ for me is on a different level altogether. So I worked at Microsoft for like 18 years. And if you're a software engineer that builds Windows, right? Or if you're a system engineer that you're going to use C++, it's super low level. You have to manage your memory. If you don't have a computer science degree with plenty of years behind you, chances are you're not going to be a very good C++ developer. And so I will avoid that unless you're really aiming for that level, right? I really think about computer science and software engineering as a pyramid. At the top, you have the people who implement the Google search algorithm. You have the people who are going to build Windows or Office, right? These people are really the top of the cream of software engineers. They're going to build, the next self-driving car, right? And then you have the rest. And that population, there's not a lot. And they're going to use, assembly, low-level languages, C++, not a lot of jobs, great pay, million plus maybe. And then there's everything else, and the everything else is, the JavaScript frameworks, the PHP frameworks, you name it. So yeah, once you touch at C++, you're very much aiming that high in my mind. That helps?
Yeah, I'm trying to focus. I feel like whenever you're going into something like this, it's good to have a career focus, because you just say, I want to learn coding, but then don't really know exactly what you want to take it, because it's such a wide variety of jobs and angles you can take it with once you graduate, and you can kind of get lost in it if you don't really know. And I love management. I've been in management now for about 2 years plus management with the military. I would like to focus that towards technical project management, but I'm trying to figure out what my best route from here might be.
So maybe have a chat. We're going to let you go, but DJ Supa is saying, hey, I just completed web development and now he's doing full stack, starting with Bootstrap. So maybe have a chat on the I don't know if you're joining us from YouTube, or maybe you can actually see if you can learn. Or you know what you could do, since you're in our Slack already, just ask around, ask the people who are in the Bootstrap, what do they think? Ask people that are in Python fundamental, what do they think? And I'm sure there's going to be a ton of people willing to give you some tips. Here's another question from Death Proof. Taking the full stack bootcamp definitely made me realize that I'm not a back-end dev lol. It happens the other way around as well. People take front end and then they end on the last module, which is Node and MongoDB, and they're like, oh my god, I love backend. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so hey, Seth, thank you for joining. Really appreciate. Good luck in making your choice, and we'll see you soon. Okay.
Thanks for joining, Seth, and thank you for your service, Seth. One thing I have to add too, Ludo, is not a lot of companies, but there will be companies, again, it's like why I went for the low-hanging fruit that will train you too. For example, my company, they're training me. I'm going to be trained on front end, whereas I learned back end. So that's
cool.
There's not a lot of opportunities like that out there, but they're out there.
Yeah. So I want to go back to what you were starting to describe, which is, how did you get that very first job? So you shared with us how much you've experienced, denials and refusal of positions. Can you actually walk us through the step-by-step of getting that first job? And I know you already started, like, you didn't get the job at first. So tell us, because I think that's also where your social skills shined, right?
Yeah. So my first job, I utilized LinkedIn. I leveraged LinkedIn. That was a big factor in me getting my job. What I did was I connected with one of the recruiters. We had a brief intro call over the phone. It was funny because I was like, okay, this sounds like a great job. And then I was given the wrong number initially. She gave me a mixture of her cell phone and her office line. It didn't work. So I was like, oh no, I missed the appointment. She called me back 20 minutes later. It ended up working. I built rapport with her. And just to kind of backpedal, the name of the company I work with is Axiom LLC. Yeah. We're essentially a data aggregation company. We work with companies like Adobe, Google, been around for probably 50, 60 years. It's also fully remote as well. And
awesome. 4,400 employees are apparently on that. So yeah, very legit company over there.
We're in Poland, we're in the UK, and obviously we're in America as well too. Awesome. And so that helped me get my foot in the door. And the recruiter set me up with an interview with the team leader of the Salesforce team. And I had an interview with him. It went well. And when I had a second interview, or 2 interviews in one, so I guess 3 rounds total, we had a personality-based interview, and then I did a technical interview. Okay. Easiest tech interview I've ever done. To be completely honest, because we work in the financial industry, and I've had so many jobs and I've had business in the past, the background check, it wasn't that it was difficult. It was just long. On average, it takes 2 weeks. So it took me 2 weeks to do my background check. Overall, I mean, between getting in the initial interview and getting the offer letter was probably about 2 weeks, and they're still aggressively hiring as well too. So I do post a Nucamp Slack channel. We are hiring. We're hiring still some associate developers, mid-level developers, and senior developers as well too. So feel free to ping me on Slack. Love to have a chat with you guys and help anyone.
That'd be awesome. Let me actually write the name of the company here, and you can actually look them up, of course. And it's a funny spelling. So let me see if I don't mess it up. That's the name of your company. 44. And let me post the link to LinkedIn as well.
What is as far as opportunity? What is there in the back end, or with my company?
I'll say in terms of opportunity and what if you just do front end, what will you be missing of not learning back end as well? I guess that's how I would interpret it.
So on the back end, the primary language that we utilize is SQL, just for manipulating data. Yeah. Nucamp have a lot with SQL, and then I use other resources. Obviously, use W3 Schools. There's this website too. I forgot the name of it, but it's essentially a murder mystery game that you play, and it's very intuitive because it shows you everything from basic SQL all the way up to joins and union alls. So that was very helpful. So I would say SQL. That's what we look for on the back end. Honestly, mostly what we look for right now is front end. So Java, JavaScript, HTML, CSS.
I mean, it's a great point. If you just do front end, you're going to really rely on your creative skills. You're going to rely on building great user experiences. You are going to miss how to structure the data. You are going to miss how to think about building a database, relationship between tables. And if you really want to be a well-rounded engineer, you have to understand the data, right?
Correct.
It doesn't have to be, you don't have to, live in the back end, but you have to understand data a little bit. So that's definitely something that will cover. Yeah, I remember the question I wanted to ask you now. So you graduated around December. How long did it take you to find a job?
I graduated in December. I think I signed my offer letter, I want to say end of April like 20th or 21st or something. So
only 4 months. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was less than 6 months. And another thing too that helped me a lot, I leveraged the post-career, the coaching program. And Nick DeVona was great, honestly. Great career coach.
That's right.
Yeah, he was very good. Great. So he helped me a lot. He helped me with JavaScript because I had
a break. Nick is taking a break for the summer. He's like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna
I'm gonna go to France. I'm gonna go to France with you, though.
Yeah, he hasn't asked, but why not? Let's talk about that. We people ask us about our jobs or career services, and we do have great coaches that are also our instructors. And you can schedule 30 minutes, anytime. You have the Calendly link. And we have Gani and Stephanie that are still with us, and we're gonna actually, depending on the demand, we're gonna add more coaches. But yeah, Nick Nick is a really good friend in the state of Washington as well. Started with Nucamp like several years ago in the city of Tacoma. So Nick, if you are watching us, thank you for everything you're doing, and I wish you
Shout out to
a
Nick.
great summer. Shout out to Nick. Speaking of the backend bootcamp, I have to do a little bit of commercial. We have the early bird ending this coming Monday. So what's happening is the next bootcamp starts in August. I think it's August 10th, something like that. I'll have to check. And for that bootcamp starting in August, you're going to get the best deal if you sign up by the end of Monday. Now, if you miss it, you can pay, I think it's going to be an additional $300, or you just wait, or you just register for the one starting in September, and then you have the good deal. And what it does, it really helps us to kind of know a rough number of the number of students we're going to have, which means we know kind of 2 weeks ahead of time how many instructors we need. So it's a nice trick for us to kind of adjust the number of instructors that we need to staff all the boot camps. So yeah, Monday, don't forget about it. And thank you, Keith, for talking about Nick and our career services as well. Let me check. I've seen another question for you, Nick, here. Sorry, Keith. I have Nick's name in mind now. And I think you kind of touched on that early on, but if you don't mind maybe repeating yourself, I mean, how did you get inspired?
I got inspired. I mean, the person's asking who currently in the field inspired me to get into this. A couple of people. One of them is probably my best friend. We had the conversation, last year. He kind of helped guide me into software development, and just also my cousin. I have some family members and friends who are also in software development as well too, and helped me get this pool. So.
It's a nice one.
So yeah, he was a big influence. I think he's in the chat as well too. He's a big influence.
Oh, is he? Cool.
Inspired me to get into this field.
Awesome. All right. Let me see what else we have. So I'm not a C++ guy. And I guess that's related to C++, dynamic memory allocation. That sounds like not fun, though. That's what I'm going to say. I don't know that anyone will enjoy, coding in C++. What else? Do you see something else?
Let me see.
So there's a question here from Karthik. What is the percentage of successful completed students who have found jobs immediately? We have that information on our website, updated daily. We are trying to be as transparent as we can. Keith, you answered that survey. We're looking at, we have two questions. Are you employed? Are you applying your tech skills? And that percentage is on the website.
I think it's like 70%, 75%. It's pretty, actually, it's very good. It's high.
Pretty good. And it's not 99.9% because that's not real. Just saying.
Yeah.
So, and that changes. Let me actually share my screen. I discovered I could do that. That's pretty fun as well. There we go. So, as of yesterday, July 15th, as of today, actually, this morning, out of 1,531 answers, we had 79% after 9 months, 75% after 6 months. You have other data points here, 66% after just 3 months, 70% graduation rate. And what's kind of cool is not only we update it daily, but we actually keep a snapshot monthly. So if I go here, this will be from last month. So this was June. And then I saw an 80% at some point. Earlier this week, we were near the 80%. But yeah, so that's what we're trying to be as transparent as possible here. Thanks for the question. You can see that on Career Services, that landing page. All right, let me bring us back here. Oh yeah, there was a question about your portfolio, and I think you kind of talked about it briefly. You had a boxing app. Can you tell us a little bit about what were the projects you worked on? What role did that play in you getting a job? And how do you think about personal projects? And how do you think about your app? I mean, how far are you going to take it?
Sure. The app right now is in its infancy. Essentially, right now, the app is a bunch of loops. Basically, just it's a game that gives the user the ability to have fighters fight each other based on their attributes. Because unfortunately, in boxing and like UFC, the best fighters do not fight each other. So that's basically the app. I've also built some basic similar games within Python as well to rock paper scissors. I'm in a whatchamacallit, what's the name of it? Scanner. I forget the name of the picture. QR code generator.
Yeah, QR code,
couple different basic projects. What I did was I just did some research. What are some beginner level Python projects to create, and I created them. They helped me build confidence because it helped hone my skill and it helped me study. And I think kind of touching on that again, a personal portfolio, project portfolio is paramount to your development, because one, you can work on something you like, and it's going to push you to kind of take it to the next level and expand your coding knowledge, because it's a subject that you enjoy. And it helped me network. It got my resume across. It got me in the door. It got me interviews. With my job though, Python unfortunately is on our tech stack, so we don't use Python. We do use SQL though. So, but it did definitely boost my resume, or I guess it boosted my portfolio or profile with other companies, and my company too.
Cool. I want to ask you. You mentioned that your company is paying for you to learn front end. What type of language are you learning?
Currently, right now, HTML, and then eventually AmpScript, which is a Salesforce native language, kind of like JavaScript, and then hopefully eventually JavaScript as well too. And I'm continuing to study SQL.
Cool. I want to ask you, and I don't ask that question very often, but you've done a ton of research that got you into Nucamp. What made you decide to actually select Nucamp versus other approaches or other coding bootcamps?
So I connected with a handful of people on LinkedIn. I picked their brain. I bug them about what their experience was like with their boot camps. But I looked at 3 or 4 different boot camps, and I just kind of got an idea of what their experience was, what they liked about it, what they didn't like. I also took into effect, how cost effective each one was, and their perceived value after the boot camp, and what the percentage of employment was within a specific span of time. So I used that calculation, and that's how I got to Nucamp. And Nucamp had great reviews, and it's very, very cost effective as well too. So that's kind of what steered me to Nucamp, and just the fact that it was, at the time when I looked, it was boasting about 75%. I want to say 75% employment rate following graduation within 6 months, that people entered in the tech world. So that's kind of what sold me on Nucamp. So
the transparency, I guess. I mean, I know there's a ton of other bootcamps that are advertising higher graduation rates. And how much credit do you give to how as an industry we communicate to potential students? Like, how much do you see through the marketing fluff, or how do you see that from your standpoint? I'm curious.
As in what exactly? Like how transparent Nucamp was?
Yeah.
Or
Well, in general, in the industry, when there's like different contracts that offer you to pay after your you get a job, or actually we refund you 100%, 110%. Like, there's a ton of marketing techniques to get you into signing up. How much were you able to kind of
steer around that?
With that, yeah, exactly.
I was pretty good about it. I was always skeptic when I came across companies that did offer some kind of contract, or offered some kind of compensation up front, or whether they were paying for training. I did go through, I think, 3 rounds with the company. They're based in New Jersey. Well, they're a foreign company, but they had an office based in New Jersey. And I thought everything was going well, but then I didn't hear back from the recruiter. So I was like, okay, this is enough. I'm just going to go more the traditional route and kind of go back to aiming for the low hanging fruit, going for internships, going for apprenticeships. And actually, I applied to a few jobs out here in Orange County, and I literally drove to these offices and say, hey, I'm following up on my application. Here's my resume. Can I speak with the hiring manager? It helped a little bit. I didn't get a chance to speak. I didn't get a chance to speak with the hiring manager, but I got my face. They show that there was a desire or a push to show that essentially I was hungry. So that helped a lot. But I ended up with my current company, and I'm happy because it's a great company. It's a great work-life balance, and I'm getting paid to train too, which is a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let me see if we have additional questions. Yeah, Krista did the same that you did and kind of poked around, asked a few graduates. It's really interesting for me to hear that because I have no insights into what people. I mean, there's of course a ton of very positive reviews, but then how we can't really know what people are saying one on one, right? And what is the vibe? So it's really encouraging to hear that all the positive
Yeah.
reviews that we have online are kind of a true reflection of what people will say in private. I would say so. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, one thing about the Nucamp community. Oh, sorry, I didn't
No,
interject.
go for it. Go for it.
It was very, being in the Nucamp community, especially obviously in Slack too, because all of us are
Right.
remote for the most part. Everyone was willing to help. I received a lot of help from various instructors and other students as well. A lot of people in my bootcamp helped me as well to study. So it was really beneficial.
Oh, and Krista clarifies the campfire was helpful. Uh, so, Keith, when we got together right before this show, I asked you what are the things that you want to share that you really want to talk about. And there's one thing you asked me to make sure that we actually will touch on. It's your interest and passion in helping others as well. Do you mind like telling us a little bit about what you're doing in that space, what your aspirations are from that standpoint?
Yeah. So I believe that, almost you pay it forward. Essentially karma. You put those good intentions and vibrations out. So I'm blessed to have great friends and family that helped me get to the position where I'm at. So I feel like I'm obligated to help other people who are looking to transition into tech. I'm currently helping right now a friend as well. I'm trying to guide him towards Nucamp and also just helping him self-study and to transition to tech because he wants to make a career change as well. The one thing I would say too is you have to be obsessed with anything a goal that you have in life, and you have to essentially relentlessly pursue that goal until you get there. Whether it's networking, studying a lot, making projects, creating projects, getting your foot in the door. You have to do that, and I think it's important to understand that yes, you have to have good tech skills or tech skills that get you in the door, but also you have to be able to connect with people as well. And I do enjoy helping people.
No, that's very very important, and I really appreciate that you're willing to do that. How should people reach out to you if they would like to get your feedback or your help?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. I do
Yeah.
post on LinkedIn every once in a while. I'm also active in Slack on the Nucamp channel, so you can
Yeah.
ping me on LinkedIn or Nucamp as well too.
Let me actually. So if you're a student already, you'll see my post in the general channel where I've mentioned you, so they'll see your name there. But do you mind? Should I paste your LinkedIn profile link?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Let me do that then.
And another thing too. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Go for it.
If you're going to transition into tech or any kind of make a transition into any kind of career, have a conversation with your family. Let them know that one, I'm going to we're going to be taking a lot of time putting aside, so it's going to cut into social time, might cut into family time a little bit as well too. Make sure that they're supportive and.
Did you just see what I just saw?
Yeah.
Well, let me show
congrats,
you.
Congrats to Nick.
Speaking of the devil, Nick, did you hear what we were saying about you earlier? If you didn't, maybe you want to rewatch the show. We've been talking about you, Nick. Anyways.
Yeah, again, Nick was a huge help. Great career coach, best career coach I've had, and it's important to get the support from your family and friends and make sure they understand. A huge support in my in my journey was my girlfriend. She's extremely understanding, very understanding, great partner. She bought me multiple monitors for my studying. She basically helped me focus. She was she was great.
Just got off work. All right, rewatch. I think you'll like it. So cool. I think that was Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy. I had so much fun doing that podcast with Don. I hope Don is not watching so that he doesn't see that you're describing him as being a small YouTube podcast. Don is big. Don is big. He's a figure in the industry. A lot of respect for Don. But thank
Oh,
you.
wow.
That was a great
Thank you.
interview I did more than a year ago now, like a year and a half, I think. One more question, I think, from Juan, and then we're gonna get to the end of this. Any resource outside Nucamp?
Yes, there's quite a few complimentary / free resources. So freecodecamp.org, I think, or .com. W3 Schools is very good. Udemy sometimes has, they will have free resources or free classes, or very, very cost-effective classes that you can get for under $20 or $10. What else?
Do you attribute any of those resources to your success, or is it just everything what contributed to your success?
I would say everything cumulatively. There was this, but I mean, particularly, I want to say lucky, or just the right opportunity with my job. There was this W3 Schools was very helpful because my technical interview was primarily SQL, and this other, I have to pull it up. There's other website as well too. It's essentially a murder mystery website with SQL. It's very intuitive, interactive. It gave me the ability to kind of grasp concepts more too. So it's cumulatively, you have to get yourself in that habit of studying every day. At least try an hour a day. I still study at least an hour every day after work to learn and hone my skill sets.
Nick is in the house and being rewarded and recognized. Yeah, Nick has been with Nucamp for a while now, and really, I've had the chance to meet Nick in person. I mean, before the pandemic, of course, but then recently we got together as well. I think last year. Yeah, and Cothin was a student apparently. Hey, Keith, any parting words that you would like to share with the audience? It was a really, really fun hour.
Yeah.
Hearing about your story, but yeah, anything you want to close on?
A couple things. So again, just keep a positive mindset, build a habit of studying every day, continue to network, and you'll hit your goals. I mean, for someone like myself who still struggles with wrapping my mind around the logic when it comes to programming languages, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Trust me. And I'll give a shout out to my best friend. He's on here, Xavier, making silly comments too.
Oh, I saw.
Yeah, he's quite experienced when it comes to coding. And again, shout out to my girlfriend Yvonne. She's on here too, and Nick. But yeah, just keep working, keep studying, and just continue to network, and that will put you in a position for success.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Keith, for your wise words, for sharing your very inspiring journey with us. It's been a pleasure having you as a student and part of the community. You know that you will be very much welcome at any point in the future as an instructor as well. You want to pay it forward. It's a great way of paying it forward and being paid, paying it forward. So, I mean, think of us when you feel ready to teach back and help in the classroom. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We're going to have another Campfire next week. But then, as I said, as we get closer to August, we're going to take a break. I'm going to take a break, stay with the family a little bit. So we'll have fewer episodes in August. But again, thank you, Keith.
Thank you,
Enjoy the pool and the nice weather.
Yeah.
And the great weekend. Okay.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you, everyone.